initial report or crime detection. In criminal investigation, the initial report or crime detection is the first and crucial stage of the process. A crime is reported, as I said earlier, by either victim or witness or witnesses, or it is discovered by the law enforcement agents. That is proactive detection. And once crime is reported or discovered, a case then will be opened and the preliminary investigation or evaluation will be conducted. This preliminary evaluation or investigations include determining the nature of the crime committed. Example, whether it is murder, manslaughter, rape, kidnapping, theft, or assault. In this jurisdiction, that is Adamawa State, the murder referred as a culpable homicide punishable with death, while manslaughter is culpable homicide punishable not with death. The investigating officer in charge of the investigation should also note the time, date, and the location of the incident or where crime is committed, a description of events leading to the crime, and the names of any witnesses if available. The reason why I have said eyewitness if available, some cases are proven by circumstantial evidence. You cannot get a person who witnessed the incident. That is, you cannot get eyewitness. All these that I mentioned are to be recorded by the investigating officer immediately after the case is reported or detected, as the case may be. Preliminary investigation. The preliminary investigation is the second response by a law enforcement agent to a reported crime. Preliminary investigation involves gathering of basic facts such as who committed the crime, where the crime is committed, how and when it was committed. Once these are ascertained by the investigating officer, he should preserve the crime scene and determine whether a crime has committed actually or not. From this, an officer can determine the nature of the crime, preserve evidence for further analysis, identify suspects and witnesses. The key issues are: the investigating officer upon arrival of the scene should ensure safety of all individuals present, including victim, suspect, and witnesses. The investigating officer should also provide medical assistance if there are injured persons in the crime scene and take them to the nearest hospital for emergency medical services. In homicide cases, if the death was caused by someone, a medical investigation, that is autopsy, must be conducted to ascertain the actual cause of the death, especially if the victim, or let me say the deceased, did not die at the spot. Any individual who may be involved or have witnessed the incident should be identified and kept separate also to avoid collusion or contamination of statement. As I said, there is what we call crime scene management. Crime scene management is a critical component of the criminal investigation process. It involves securing, preserving, documenting, and analyzing a crime scene to ensure the integrity of the evidence and to support successful prosecution. Proper crime scene management ensures that evidence is not contaminated, lost, or tampered with. Under this, the officer in charge of the investigation needs to establish a parameter to avoid contamination, prevent unauthorized access, and begin detailed observation. After initial reports or crime detection, preliminary investigation, crime scene management, there is what we call follow-up investigation. Follow-up investigation is a crucial piece in the criminal investigation process that takes place after initial report and preliminary investigation. And this follow-up investigation, it involves deeper analysis and collection of evidence to build a strong case. The follow-up investigation has some certain objectives. The investigating officer should verify facts and confirm details obtained during the preliminary investigation. All details obtained during preliminary investigation, the investigating officer should confirm them whether they are in line with what he has discovered in his investigation or not. 2. The investigating officer should locate additional evidence during follow-up investigation if need arises, and interview people who may have new or more detailed information. The investigating officer should also gather additional evidence and search for physical, documentary, or digital evidence during follow-up investigation. The investigating officer during follow-up investigation should establish motive, means, and opportunity that will strengthen the link between the suspect and the crime. The investigating officer should prepare for the prosecution by ensuring that all legal requirements are met for trial. The other objectives of follow-up investigation is to investigate alibi when it is raised by the suspect and conduct identification parades when the identity of the suspect is in question or uncertain. Then, what is alibi? An alibi is a legal defense used to show that a person was somewhere else at the time a crime was committed, meaning they could not have been involved in the crime. For example, if someone is accused of robbery that happened at 3 p.m., but they were at the restaurant with friends at that time, and their friends can confirm it, that's their alibi. When an accused person put forward an alibi during investigation, the investigator must investigate it seriously and promptly. This is part of the broader duty to seek the truth and not simply to score a conviction. It is settled that failure to investigate an alibi could be seen as a breach of due process or fairness. The Supreme Court, in the case of Addo versus the States, 2021, 12 Nigerian League Weekly Law Report, Part 1791, page 427, where the court defined alibi as elsewhere. It is the commonest of all defenses. The defense is based on the fact that it is physically impossible for an accused person to be in a location other than the scene of the crime at the relevant time, since the alibi positioned him elsewhere when the offense was committed, therefore, in effect, exculpating the accused person from the crime committed, since he was not the one who committed it, being elsewhere. We have what we called identification parade. On the identification parade, the duty to conduct an identification parade, also known as lineup, by the investigating officers arises when the identity of the accused person is in question or uncertain. This is especially important in criminal investigation, where only or main issue is whether the suspect is actually the person who committed the crime. The purpose of identification parade is to allow the eyewitness to identify the suspect from a group of similar looking individuals, usually among at least 8 people of similar height and appearance. In the case of Salau versus the State, 2019, 16 Nigerian Weekly Law Report, Part 1699, page 399. The Supreme Court in that case held that the conduct of an identification parade is only necessary when there is a doubt as to the ability of a victim to recognize the suspect who carried out or participated in carrying out the crime alleged, or where the identity of the said suspect or an accused person is in dispute. The Supreme Court further states that, but where there is a certainty or no dispute as to the identity of the perpetrator of a crime, there will be no need for an identification parade to further identify the offender, since he has already identified by the victim himself or the witnesses, as the case may be. In other words, an identification parade become necessary when there is a need to establish the identity of a suspect. There are key activities in follow-up investigation, that is, re-interviewing witnesses. The investigating officer can re-interview witnesses to clarify new issues that emerge, as I said earlier, in the course of the investigation. I could remember a time when a case of culpable homicide, punishable with death, was reported and the suspect involved were interrogated by the investigating officers. One of the victims, I could remember, or let me say a suspect, informed the police that she had a jealous husband and that the deceased had attempted to rape her at the night before his corpse was found in the morning lying down near borehole in their village. She also added that her husband had warned her not to tell the police what she knew, and if she did, he will deal with her. The point that I am trying to make here is that since the new issues have emerged, they ought to be investigated further. In specific, why the husband told her not to reveal what she knows, and why he emphasized that there will be consequences if she did. As far as I'm concerned, if these matters are investigated further, circumstantially, the investigating officers in charge of the investigation can be able to identify what exactly caused the death of the disease. The follow-up investigation has some certain importance. One of the important of follow-up investigation is to ensure that no critical information is missed in the course of investigation, and it enhances the credibility and strength of the case in court. The follow-up investigation can lead to additional charges or uncover other related crimes, as the case may be.